My girlfriend told me she needed space and asked that I should not contact her for a while. I honored her request, then found out she'd flown off for a tropical vacation with her ex. I didn't lose my temper. I changed the locks on my apartment and sold the car registered in my name. When she came home, reality hit hard. The key didn't work and her parking spot was empty. This is how it happened. Before we get into the sweet part, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If you're watching us for the first time, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you never miss any new story. I'm not really one to post online about my personal life, but what happened to me recently felt like something out of a bad TV drama. And honestly, writing this down is more about processing it than getting attention. If it helps someone else avoid the same mistake, then even better. So, I'm a 30-year-old guy. Was in a relationship with a woman named Vanessa for almost 2 years. Things were good, or so I thought. We had our ups and downs like everyone, but nothing that screamed red flag. About a year ago, she moved in with me. I've got a decent 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet part of town. Nothing flashy, just comfortable. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, it was a Tuesday evening. I was in the kitchen making dinner, just doing the usual weekday routine, when I got a text from her, and not a casual, "Hey, can you grab milk on your way home" type of text. This one came out of nowhere. "Ryan, things feel complicated. I need some space to think and figure things out. Please don't contact me for a while. I'll reach out when I'm ready." I remember staring at my phone for a full minute, thinking maybe I'd read it wrong. We hadn't argued. No screaming matches, no dramatic fights. Sure, she'd been a little distant lately, but I chalked it up to work stress or just general burnout. But that message, it hit like a sucker punch. Still, I tried to respect it. I didn't respond with 1,000 questions or demands. I texted back, "Okay, Vanessa, I understand. Take the time you need." And that was it. No more messages, no calls, just silence. I spent the next few days going through every emotion, confusion, hurt, anxiety. I thought maybe something serious was going on in her life. Maybe I'd missed a sign or said something wrong. I slept on my side of the bed like she might walk in any second. I kept making dinner for 2 by force of habit. Every now and then I'd glance at my phone, hoping maybe she'd sent something. But there was nothing. I distracted myself with work, buried myself in spreadsheets, endless meetings and long hours. It kept my mind from spiraling mostly. But by Friday night, the ache was real. The silence had settled in like fog, and my chest felt heavy with questions I couldn't ask. So I did what anyone does when they're trying to avoid thinking too hard. I opened Instagram just to scroll. Nothing specific, just needed noise in my brain. I didn't expect to see her. There, in a post by one of our mutual friends, was Vanessa, clear as day, in a sundress, drink in hand, toes in the sand, big sunglasses, tanned shoulders, that same easy smile that used to be mine. But the real kicker? Jordan was next to her, arm around her waist, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. Jordan, her ex, the same guy she swore was just part of her past. The one I never liked, not because of jealousy, but because of the way her voice changed when she talked up with him to casual, too quick to dismiss. Something about it always felt rehearsed. The caption, "Living our best lives, reunited in paradise." I read it 3 times before my brain accepted it. So this was what space meant. She wasn't confused. She wasn't figuring things out. She was just test driving an old flame, keeping me on ice while she soaked up island sunsets with the guy she once cried over. My blood ran cold. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was surgical. Clean. A precise little incision that cut deep into the trust I'd spent 2 years building, but after the initial hurt washed over him, after the knot in my stomach twisted and twisted, I felt something else. Something sharper, clearer, clarity. I wasn't going to be someone's backup plan. I wasn't going to sit here quietly waiting to be reactivated like some old save file in a game. She paused. I was done. That night I sat on my couch and thought about everything. The apartment Weshered mine, technically. Her car, also technically mine. The way she waltzed out without a word, then waltzed into someone else's arms without missing a beat. She wanted space. She'd have it. Miles and miles of it. The next morning, I called a locksmith. Cost me about $250 to change the deadbolt and knob lock. The guy was professional, didn't ask questions, just replaced the locks and handed me the new set of keys. When he left, I held them in my palm. The metal cool and unfamiliar. It felt good, not petty, not vindictive, just secure. Mine. Then I thought about the car. 6 months ago, Vanessa's car had finally died. She needed something reliable for work. She was doing freelance marketing, bouncing between clients, and needed to be mobile. Her credit wasn't great, so I stepped up. Bought a used Mazda CX-25. Decent condition. The loan, title, insurance, all in my name. The deal was, she'd make payments to me monthly and it was hers to use, but legally, it was mine. Every inch of it. She'd decorated it like it was her own. Fuzzy dice, seat covers, a Spotify playlist, named Vinny's Vibes. Cute, but temporary. I still had the spare key, so I drove it to a dealership I trusted, explained I needed to sell a used car, had the paperwork. They inspected it briefly and said they'd finalize an offer after the full inspection, $16,500, pending condition. Fair enough. Left it with them and took an Uber home. Her parking spot empty now, just like the bed, just like the space beside me at the table. And somehow, that emptiness finally felt peaceful. Her things were still in the apartment. I didn't touch them, not yet. I wasn't interested in revenge for the sake of pain, but I also wasn't going to let her walk back into my life like nothing had happened. She asked for space. She took it on a beach with a guy who once broke her heart, and apparently still had the keys to it. She made her move. Now it was my turn. I didn't know what would happen when she came back. Whether she'd knock on the door, crying, whether she'd gaslight me into believing it was all a misunderstanding. Maybe she'd rage, maybe she'd beg. It didn't matter. I had made my decision. The door would open, but only so far. And this time I wasn't stepping aside to let anyone walk all over me. This was my home, my life. She walked out on both, and now she could stay out. The door guy came the next morning. While he worked, I sat in my living room sipping coffee and staring at the door. I'd picked a coffee mug Vanessa never used. No sentimental strings, just mine. The locksmith changed the locks as if he was rehanging a welcome mat. In reality, he was boarding up a door for someone who refused to return. "Here are your new keys," he said, handing me 3 identical brass fobs. He didn't need to say it, but we both understood. Vanessa's key was now useless. He vacuumed. His work dust nodded and left. I set one key aside in a box labeled "Do Not Use." I dropped the second in my wallet. The third, I left it in the hallway drawer, so if I ever needed emergency tech from work, I could produce it at a moment's notice. The house, my apartment, felt quieter than before. It wasn't empty. It was calm, like the quiet after the storm. The gnawing ache was gone. The knot in my stomach had loosened. For the first time in a week, I felt safe again using my own front door. But Vanessa still had the car, the Mazda CX-5, my name, my loan, my insurance, yet treated like hers. And she was still off in paradise having time with Jordan. That afternoon, I called the dealership and explained clearly that I was its registered owner and wanted it sold. No drama, no threat. Legal facts. They confirmed they'd complete the inspection within 5 business days. I texted Vanessa's backup key, actually mine, to the lot manager for pickup. I didn't gloat, just logistics. I didn't want to keep something she paid for emotionally. I wanted what was mine, legally accurate, emotionally clean. That evening, as I scrolled Instagram again, former habits die hard, I saw that Vanessa's vacation had extended by 5 more days. The caption was beachy, sunny, carefree, smile, sunshine, ex-paradise. It all felt like my world, unzipped and tucked into her clutch. Waiting, it stung. But I felt pride too. Pride for caring enough to help her when things were trying. But pride, stronger than pain, that I could act fast and logically when trust died. The weekend rolled on. No texts, no calls. My living room stayed orderly. Her parcel arrived, a surprise box of skincare products she'd ordered before she left. My impulse was to ship it back unopened, but I didn't. I opened it, set it on the kitchen island, and left. If she wanted it, she could pick it up at her leisure. I hadn't thrown it out. I'm just detached. Monday came. The dealer called with the official offer, $16,350. Inspection passed. No hidden charges, I confirmed. They set up a pickup for Thursday. I felt oddly calm dropping the spare key in the mail slot. No drama. No speeches at pickup. It's done. Tuesday. I walked into the office feeling lighter. Colleagues asked, "Any word from Vanessa?" And I shrugged easily. She asked for distance. I gave it. They nodded. They didn't pester. It felt therapeutic to finally say it without ducking for emotion. Wednesday night, I found myself cleaning, dusting shelves, rearranging books, reorganizing my side of the closet. Room by room, bit by bit, I reclaimed the space she had once enjoyed. A photo of us on the mantel came down. It wasn't smashed. It was boxed. Nicely, respectfully. A chapter ended. Another one began. By Thursday afternoon, the dealership called. Offer accepted. Car picked up. I deposited the check. The financial chapter was closed. Emotionally, I was recovering faster than I thought. Thursday night, I did something unpredictable. I made dinner for one. Not for us. For me. Simple, Grilled chicken, roasted veggies, just enough. I sat at the dining table with wine, soft jazz in the background. No ghost of Vanessa hovering, just me and a tasty serving of normalcy. That night I fell asleep earlier than usual. No tossing from her side to mine. No whisper, hoping for a text. Just sleep. Solid and DREAMLESS. Midday Friday, I walked out to the parking garage. Her reserved spot, the one she used, was now empty. Keys were returned to the dealer. Boxes are in the spare room. Just let me know when you want to collect. No rush, no emoticons, no threats, no drama. It was what she asked for. Space. So I gave her practical, factual, unfriendly space. Not long after, my phone buzzed. Forgot to check on it. Silly me. Why? Would you sell my car? We agreed, and that was it. They'd move soon. I knew Brooke. Her sister would be dinner plating for it. I knew her mother might get involved. Family might swarm. I didn't fear it. I had the facts. Paper trails. Payments. Receipts. Bank records. Sunday evening came. I settled into the couch with a book. The apartment felt strangely like home. I wrapped my blanket around me. Not hers, mine. The pillows were set up for one. I didn't know where Vanessa was in her head. Whether she'd become sober to the betrayal, whether she'd realize she'd wrecked something genuine, or whether she'd spin the story like a bad Instagram filter, blaming me for being controlling, jealous. Contrarian. I didn't care. I cared that I'd taken back my life. That I'd stood up for myself. That I refused to be used as an emotional placeholder. That I wasn't waiting to be convenient again. That I was ready to rebuild myself, starting with locks, dirt-free floors, and a valid car title next week. She might text. Arrangements. Angry accusations. Guilt trips. Maybe tearful apologies. Maybe anything. But there was no place for guilt in me in this. Just clarity. I know she'd collect her boxes. Maybe shed an apology. Maybe pretend. Maybe leave a door cracked open to something unsaid. But I'm not opening another door until she proves she's here to stay. With honesty, trust, and respect. Until then, I'll keep the extras. Not just keys, but my sense of self. This was only the beginning of my post-Vanessa life. And this time, I would write the next chapters my way. I wasn't sure how long she'd been gone. 5 days. 10. It didn't feel like a vacation. It felt like someone hit pause on us and walked out. But when the day finally came, I heard it before I saw it. A jingle of keys, a pause, scrape at the lock. I looked up from my laptop just in time to see a familiar face, Vanessa's, peering at the door. Her eyes flicked down to my new lock, then up again, into mine. The moment was charged, tight, heavy. I watched her murmur something about the key not working, looking almost like she imagined it was some mistake, some weird technical glitch. I let her stand there a beat before unlocking. The chain and opening the door a crack. The hallway light, back leather, suitcase at her side, auburn hair a little longer. Her skin bronzed like she'd been living in sunshine. Not exactly the safe space she said she needed. "What is going on?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. Confused, annoyed. Not panicked, not regretful. She seemed irritated to be shut out rather than ashamed to have asked for it. I waited till the chain was still on before I spoke. "You asked for space?" "No contact." I honored it. Permanently, she frowned, mouth twisting. "You changed the locks." "Yeah. Because while you needed space, you also posted pics with your ex on a beach, drinking cocktails. Space Jesus knows wasn't what you meant." She drew in a breath. "That was just a friend and ex," I said calmly. Arm in arm. My voice wasn't raised. It didn't need to be. It carried quiet authority. Her eyes flicked past me to the darkened hallway. Maybe she wondered whether I'd moved on. The look of betrayal on her face shifted, first to surprise, then to mounting anger. I heard her voice catch a little. "That's unfair. We were trying to reconnect. You don't get to make assumptions." "Assumptions? You asked for space and then got cozy with someone else. You made a choice." Another scrape at the lock as she tried her old key again. "Nothing. You can't do this, Ryan. This is my apartment." My heart stung at the word, my clipped and drawn out. But it's not what she said. It was how she said it. Like I'd gone rogue. "It's mine," I said. "And you said no contact?" She glared. "Where's my car?" Her eyes locked on the empty parking spot out the window. Another silence. I let it hang. "I sold it," I said softly. "Legally mine. I started the process the day you left. It was the smart move." Her jaw dropped. She looked shockingly small in that moment. "Sold it," she repeated, disbelieving. "You can't do that. I paid you." I folded my arms. "Steady. You paid me for usage. You didn't buy it?" Loan, title, insurance, all in my name. She swallowed, panic flickering behind her eyes. So, you kicked me out and sold my car? Right? I said. Seems fair. That's when her sister Brooke stormed around the corner, lips pressed, forehead creased. What's happening? Why are you locking her out? Chill, Vanessa snapped. He's denying me entry. Brooke carved an icy path past them, looking at me with outrage. You can't do that. He's my brother. She shook her head. She's your girlfriend. You two live together. My voice was low level. She asked for space. I respected that completely. She broke our trust. A choice comes with consequences. Brooke's jaw set. She tried another angle. Sympathy. He changed locks while she's on vacation. I nodded. She asked for no contact while on vacation with her ex. I offered space permanently. Brooke's eyes darted between Vanessa and me. You could feel her internal panic. Defending Vanessa meant defending betrayal. Vanessa's voice wavered, then spoke again. My things, I need them now. I took a breath. Your stuff is boxed in the spare room. You can pick it up tomorrow, 10 a.m. Outside of that, that's it. I'm happy to facilitate civilized pickup times. No, Vanessa yelled. I want them now. I stepped forward. Iron calm. No, not tonight. Brooke stepped in, pseudo-protector. That's ridiculous. It's late. He's unstable. Her tone disgusted me. All your stuff is here. I'll box it, get it to you. Just ask between 10 and 5 tomorrow. My voice clipped. Final dot, Vanessa wind. Fine. She turned and stormed out with Brooke in tow. I double-locked the door and started boxing up her clothes. Toiletries, books, everything I could find that belonged to her. My hands shook a little, but it wasn't hurt. It was adrenaline. Then I felt a swell of relief. Later that night, Brooke texted me firmly. Pick up at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And that was that. They said 10 a.m. That was the time her sister texted. Well, texted from her own phone on Vanessa's behalf, as if Vanessa couldn't face me directly. I guess the whole I need space vacation fallout had made her too embarrassed. Or maybe she still thought she could manipulate her way back into my life through intermediaries. Either way, the message was simple and cold. Vanessa needs her things tomorrow at 10 a.m. Be ready. No please, no thank you, no apology. Not even pretending to be civil, just entitlement wrapped in a bossy tone. I spent the rest of that night boxing up everything she had left behind. I didn't want her or her family rummaging through my apartment, looking for forgotten items and maybe stirring up more drama, so I made it easy. Everything she owned, I packed. Clothes, shoes, hair tools, toiletries, picture frames, books, her makeup stash, her stack of unread wellness magazines. It all went into boxes, neatly arranged near the front door. There was a weird kind of closure in it, folding her clothes for the last time. Wrapping her coffee mug, the one with Boss Babe written in pink letters, into bubble wrap. I didn't do it to be kind. I did it to be done. 10 a.m. came right on time the next day. There was a knock at the door, sharp and fast, like someone trying to announce control before a word was even spoken. I peeked through the peephole and there she was. Not Vanessa, but her sister Brooke and their mom, Karen. Of course Karen came. The woman who once scolded me at Thanksgiving because I brought a store-bought pie instead of baking something from the heart. She'd been silently judging me since day one. I opened the door, leaving the chain lock on. The boxers are right here, I said, nodding toward the entryway. Take everything and let's be done with this. Karen didn't even say hi. She immediately stepped into her performance, eyes welling up, voice quivering. Ryan, how could you do this to her after everything? 2 years together and you just lock her out like she's trash? I didn't answer her right away. I didn't have to. I pointed to the boxes and said, her stuff's packed. This is the only time I'm opening the door for this, so take it all now. Brooke, ever the more aggressive one, folded her arms and said, we're going to need to check the closets. Make sure you didn't hide anything. Nope, I replied. You're not coming in. What's here is what's here. Karen sniffled dramatically. This is so cold. She was confused. She needed time. You're punishing her for being honest. I gave a small laugh. Going on a vacation with your ex and posting it online isn't being honest. It's being disrespectful. They didn't like that. Brooke muttered something under her breath as she picked up one of the boxers. Karen followed with another, but not before tossing a final guilt trip over her shoulder. She loved you, Ryan. You've broken her heart. She broke her own heart, I said calmly. She played a game and lost. The two of them took 3 trips total to load everything into their car. The entire time, neither of them offered a single word of appreciation. It wasn't about picking up belongings. It was about asserting control, trying to paint me as the villain one last time. Karen kept shaking her head and whispering unbelievable, as if that would rewrite the past. When the last box was gone, I closed the door without another word, not slammed, just closed. With finality, I stood there for a few seconds, listening to the sound of their footsteps disappearing down the walkway. Then I turned the lock. But I knew it wasn't really over. Not with people like Vanessa, the kind of person who sees themselves as the protagonist of every story, no matter how badly they mess up. Sure enough, later that afternoon, the messages started again, this time from mutual friends. People I only knew through Vanessa. Hey, dude. I don't want to get in the middle, but I heard what happened. Kinda messed up, man. Selling her car? Really? Another one. She told me you locked her out and dumped her stuff on the porch. Like garbage? That true? I didn't even get mad. I just responded to the ones I thought might actually care to know the full story. I explained everything. Her message asking for space and no contact. Her vacation with her ex. The car being legally mine, the facts. Some of them got it. Some didn't respond at all. Others doubled down. Still seems cold. You could have talked it out, right? Because someone who disappears to a tropical island with her ex deserves a conversation, not consequences. Later that evening, I got a call from my apartment building's management office. Apparently, someone anonymous, of course, filed a complaint that there had been a disturbance and shouting coming from my unit. I almost laughed out loud. It was clearly Vanessa or Brooke trying to cause trouble. Maybe they thought they could get me kicked out or tarnish my record with the building. I explained everything calmly to the manager. That my ex, who was not on the lease, had recently moved out. That I changed the locks because she requested no contact. That her family had come to pick up her things, and yes, there was a bit of raised voices, but nothing remotely resembling a domestic disturbance. The manager was cool, took notes, told me there wouldn't be any issue unless something escalated further. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. No drama inside the apartment. No more pretending to be in a relationship that only I was committed to. No more walking on eggshells around someone who claimed to love me but couldn't even respect me enough to break up before rekindling things with her ex. Just me, in a quiet apartment that finally felt like mine again. And maybe most importantly, no regrets. I didn't scream. I didn't throw her stuff out into the street. I didn't retaliate with insults or pettiness. I just responded with logic. With boundaries. She wanted space. She got it. Now she was living in it. It had been about a week since Vanessa's stuff was picked up. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. The boxers were gone, the car was sold, and she was officially out of my apartment and out of my life. But I should have known better. People like Vanessa don't leave quietly. They don't walk away with accountability. They leave claw marks, and they want you to bleed for daring to let them go. It started with subtle things. First, I noticed fewer likes on my social posts. Mutual friends we used to hang out with mostly. Her circle, but people I thought I had decent rapport with started disappearing. Not blocking me or anything so obvious. Just quietly The occasional glance at Instagram stories showed me they were still in touch with her then. I started getting the DMs. One came from Alex, someone I barely knew but had seen at a few parties. Hey man, heard you kicked Vanessa out and sold her car while she was away. Kinda messed up, bro. I stared at the message for a while, tempted to leave it unread, but I replied politely, explaining the facts. The car was legally mine. The breakup was initiated by her, and she was on vacation with her ex when she asked me for space and no contact, no reply. Then another message came in, this time from a girl named Jess, who had always been more Vanessa's friend than mine. I don't want to take sides, but you know she was having a rough time, right? She didn't mean for things to blow up like this. You could have handled it more maturely. More maturely? I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I didn't throw her stuff on the street. I followed her request to the letter. She asked for space and no contact. So I gave her both. Apparently. That wasn't the story she was telling. A few days later, I ran into Mark, a mutual friend from college, at a local bar. He pulled me aside awkwardly. Hey, I know it's none of my business, but Vanessa's been saying you blindsided her. That you threw her out with no warning, sold her car behind her back, and told her she was nothing to you. I laughed. An actual laugh because of how wildly false that narrative was. She really said that. Mark nodded. Yeah, and that you manipulated her financially and emotionally. That she felt trapped. I shook my head. You've seen her Instagram, right? The trip with Jordan? She asked me for space and no contact, then ghosted me and vacationed with her ex. Mark blinked. Wait, what? She was with Jordan? I showed him the screenshots, time-stamped, tagged, smiling with Jordan on a tropical beach. His face changed. Damn, okay. I didn't know that part. That was the moment I realized Vanessa wasn't just trying to preserve her pride. She was actively trying to burn my reputation down to make herself look like a victim. And she didn't care who she'd lead to in the process. But it didn't stop there. Later that week, I got a call from my apartment's leasing office. "Hi, Ryan," the woman said carefully. "We received an anonymous complaint about a disturbing incident at your unit," yelling. "What sounded like a domestic dispute? Is everything okay?" I immediately felt a knot in my stomach. This was deliberate. I told her what really happened, how Vanessa had been living with me unofficially, how she moved out after asking for space, and that the only incident was when she came to pick up her things and was refused entry past the front door. "I've had no problems since," I said. "There hasn't been any yelling or fighting inside the apartment." She sounded understanding and said they'd note it down, but I was rattled. I realized then that Vanessa, or someone close to her, was trying to get me in trouble. Legally, or at least on record. Stirring up enough noise to paint me as dangerous, irrational. It was manipulative. But more than that, it was scary. The next blow came from an unexpected direction. I got a letter in the mail. From a local law office, it looked legit at first glance. Inside was a formal demand for $10,000. It claimed I had unjustly profited by selling Vanessa's car, and that she had suffered emotional distress due to my sudden eviction and seizure of personal property. It was laughable. A car in my name, legally registered and insured by me, which she never had title to. Emotional distress from the space she herself requested? Still, I wasn't going to play it dumb. I called a real lawyer, a professional I'd consulted earlier when changing the locks and prepping to sell the car. He reviewed the letter, shook his head, and helped me draft a reply. It included a copy of the car title, in my name only, screenshots of Vanessa's original text asking for space and no contact, timestamped, Instagram photos of her and Jordan on their vacation, a statement that her payments for the car were rent for its use, not ownership contributions. My lawyer added a final note warning of possible countersuit for harassment and defamation if the threats continued. That was the last I heard from that lawyer. But Vanessa wasn't done. One afternoon, I got a message request on Instagram from Jordan. Yeah, Jordan. I didn't open it, just deleted and blocked him. I had no idea what he wanted. Maybe to apologize, maybe to gloat, maybe to cover his own tail now that the story was unraveling. Didn't care. But through mutuals, I started hearing whispers about Vanessa's unraveling situation. Apparently, after I locked her out and sold the car, she'd been couch surfing, first with her sister, Brooke, then back with her parents. But her sense of entitlement didn't fade with her living arrangements. She expected everyone to keep her comfortable, pay her way, and validate her story. That only worked for a short while. Jordan, it turns out, wasn't sticking around. The trip was a fling. When reality returned, rent, work, drama, he ghosted her. Surprise, surprise. Brooke got sick of her freeloading. Their mom, Karen, couldn't bankroll her lifestyle forever. Eventually, Vanessa had to move back to her hometown. I heard she was complaining to anyone who'd listened that I'd ruined her life. But here's the thing. I didn't ruin anything. I just removed myself from her chaos. She gambled. She lost. And when she did, she tried to burn everything around her to avoid accountability. But she didn't realize I'd built my defenses first. No, I wasn't perfect. I ignored red flags, believed in someone who didn't deserve it, and maybe stayed longer than I should have. But when the moment came, I chose to protect myself. She wanted space. She got miles of it. No more Vanessa. No more emotional manipulation. Just peace. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. And no smear campaign was going to take that away from me. 2 months. That's how long it's been since Vanessa came back from her vacation turned reality check. Since the day she stood on my doorstep, suitcase in hand. Stunned that the door she walked out of with so much confidence no longer opened. For her, since then, things have gotten quiet. Blessedly quiet at first. I didn't know what to do with the silence. After months of subtle manipulation, walking on eggshells, and then the drama that followed the breakup, the quiet felt suspicious. Like the eye of a storm, I'd find myself tense. Checking my phone, expecting another passive-aggressive text from Brooke, or a guilt-tripping email from Vanessa's mom. But nothing came. Just nothing. And slowly I started to accept that nothing was exactly what I needed. I didn't immediately start celebrating or throwing a breakup party. The aftermath was heavy. You don't just close the book on a nearly 2-year relationship, especially one where you lived together, without feeling the weight of it. There were moments when I sat on the couch, still half expecting her to walk through the door, kicking off her shoes and asking what we were doing for dinner. Muscle memory, I guess. I even had a dream one night that she'd never left, that the whole I need space thing never happened, that I'd just imagined the whole trip with Jordan. I woke up with this weird sense of hope, just for a few cans, until reality came crashing back in. Then the hope turned into something better. Relief. The truth was, the relationship had been dying for a while. I just didn't want to admit it. There were signs. The emotional distance. The way she never really said I love you unless I said it first. The way everything became about her job, her schedule, her problems, while mine were met with distracted nods or forced sympathy. I used to blame myself. Thought maybe I wasn't interesting enough, or that I hadn't done enough to keep things exciting. But in the stillness of my apartment, finally, I began to see things clearly. I hadn't failed. I had just been used. She needed me when her credit was trash and her car broke down. She needed a stable place to live while she rebuilt her lifestyle. I was convenient, steady, reliable. But when she wanted excitement, when the itch for something nostalgic hit her, she ran to the ex she swore was ancient history. And she told me with a straight face that she needed space to figure things out. Then she lied about it. That kind of betrayal doesn't heal overnight, but it does teach you something. One of the first things I did after she was officially out of my life was repaint the living room. That probably sounds ridiculous, but it was therapeutic. She had picked the original color, a trendy soft gray, and filled the shelves with knickknacks she bought on Etsy. That living room used to feel like a showroom, not a home. Now it's a warm navy blue. My books on the shelves, a couple of indoor plants I actually like. Every brushstroke felt like reclaiming something. Every picture I rehung was a step away from what was and a step toward what could be. I also sold the couch, the one we picked out together. I didn't need it anymore. And I didn't need the memory of movie nights that ended with her scrolling on her phone instead of watching the film. Bought a new one, just a simple two-seater, soft brown leather, comfortable. Mine. Funny how furniture can feel like closure. I started going back to the gym regularly again. Not in some cliché revenge body way, but because I needed routine, structure, something to focus on besides scrolling through old memories and wondering if I missed some critical red flag. I also reconnected with some old friends. Guys I hadn't hung out with much during the relationship because Vanessa wasn't a fan. Turns out they'd missed me. And when I told them everything that happened, they didn't just nod, they understood. She always gave me weird vibes. One of them admitted, like she thought she was above the rest of us. That validation helped more than I thought it would. It reminded me that I hadn't been crazy, that the unease I felt near the end wasn't in my head. The final piece of closure came one afternoon while I was cleaning out my phone, deleting old photos, archiving unused apps. I found a folder labeled Vinny Me. Inside were hundreds of pictures, selfies, holidays, date nights, smiling, kissing, arms around each other. A life captured frame by frame. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't cry, didn't get angry. I just looked. And then I deleted it. Not out of spite. Out of peace. Those photos weren't real. Not anymore. They were shadows of a relationship that, at its core, was built on an illusion. She wanted stability until it bored her. I wanted love that lasted. We were always on different pages. Deleting those photos wasn't erasing the past. It was letting go of a version of myself that I didn't need to be anymore. I heard through the grapevine that Vanessa moved back to her hometown apparently. Things didn't work out with Jordan Shakur. Brooke got tired of hosting her, and their mom, Karen, couldn't afford to keep funding Vanessa's lifestyle. Word is she's blaming me for everything. Says I stole her car and kicked her out into the street. Tells people I left her emotionally shattered. I used to care what people thought, but not anymore. The people who matter to me, my real friends, my family, they know the truth. They saw the receipts. They watched me handle everything calmly, legally, and respectfully. If some distant acquaintance wants to believe her version of events, so be it. Let them. I've moved on. A few days ago, I sat out on my apartment balcony with a cup of coffee and a book. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that fills you up instead of making you anxious. I looked around and realized this was the life I'd forgotten I was allowed to have. A life free of manipulation. A life where I wasn't constantly second my worth or trying to prove I was enough. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was just done. And in a strange way, I'm grateful because sometimes the cleanest kind of revenge isn't screaming or slamming doors. It's waking up one day and realizing you don't think about them anymore. It's living your life so, well, that the past fades into the background. Like static. Vanessa asked for space. She got it, and I got something better. My self-respect, my freedom, and a fresh start. No drama, no chaos. No Vanessa, just me, moving forward, and finally, happy. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more of these stories.